Mr. Ferguson, this question goes to you first. This fall, voters will decide on the fate of 4 initiatives, including I-2117, which would repeal the state's Climate Commitment Act, which calls for having the state's largest polluters pay for carbon emissions. Are you going to vote for this initiative? And if not, what should the state's role be in fighting climate change?
So I'll be voting no on the initiative. In other words, I'm opposed to repealing the Climate Commitment Act. And just want to elaborate that for a moment. This will be a critical issue facing our voters, and I believe that the Climate Commitment Act needs to be adjusted. For example, farmers are entitled to an exemption under the Climate Commitment Act. That hasn't happened yet. When I'm elected governor, I've met with farmers in Odessa. We're going to make sure that the state follows through on the promise to make sure those farmers get the exemption they're entitled to. Something else I would change with the Climate Commitment Act. Look, that act helps fund a working families tax credit. That's helping out working families all across the state. We need to expand the amount of money going to that working families tax credit to help Washingtonians all across the state. Finally, what I'll add is there's a transition coming to a clean energy economy in this state. We need to embrace that. Why? It's good for clean air, it's good for clean water, but guess what? It's also good for jobs. I was in Wenatchee, went to an apprenticeship training program there. What were those hundreds and hundreds of Washingtonians training for? Clean energy economy. Those are jobs for Washingtonians all across the state, and that's a key reason why I also support the act, but it does need to be adjusted as we move forward.
Mr. Reichert.
So I have a great record on climate in Congress. I worked on Alpine Lakes, Wild Sky, Mountains to Sound, Greenway. Those are all great accomplishments in making Washington State green, clean, and pristine, and we all want that. The problem with the gas tax is we weren't told the truth. We were lied to. We were told it was going to be pennies. It's more than pennies. It's gone up to 50 cents at some points. We're competing with California now to see who can have the highest gas tax. Now, when we do that, again, I'll go back to my previous statement, everything that we buy goes up. Everything that's hauled in trucks, grown on farms. And here's what's bothersome. The voters did not have an opportunity to really voice their opinions in this case. So I say, let's vote yes, pay less, and then let's have a discussion with the members of our state legislature and find a way forward that's not placing the cost of green, clean energy efforts on the backs of hardworking Washingtonians.
We'll stay on the same topic, and this question will go to you, Mr. Ferguson, first. Before the law took effect, Washingtonians were told the CCA's impact on gas prices would be minimal, maybe a few cents a gallon. In reality, it quickly led to higher prices, around 25 cents or so a gallon. Do you think the public was misled about the CCA's impact on gas prices? And would you take any steps to reduce gas prices and bring them back in line with states like Oregon?
Yeah, it's time to move forward on what's going to happen moving forward. And I talked earlier about making sure, for example, farmers get that exemption they're entitled to make sure they're not paying too much in gas prices. We need to make sure we're holding gas corporations accountable when they're not playing by the rules. I do want to add, though, that my opponent denies that humans even contribute to climate change. And you can go to ReichertRevealed.com. So he's interrupting me again. Please you can go to ReichertRevealed.com, and you can actually listen to his words. There's audio tape of all of these things. You also said, Dave, I love Donald Trump's policies. Well, guess what? A lot of those policies eviscerated environmental laws, clean air, clean water. I know, Dave, because as Attorney General, I challenged those rulings in court and won time after time. Go to ReichertRevealed.com. You can actually listen to his voice saying all of these things.
And Mr. Reichert, the question centered around if you think Washingtonians were misled about the CCA's impact on gas prices, and what steps would you take, or would you take steps to reduce gas prices and bring them back in line with states like Oregon?
Well, first of all, you vote yes on the initiative, and yes, we were misled. And yes, the farmers and the truck drivers were misled. They were told they were going to have an exemption when no language included at all in that bill that allowed for an exemption. They've had to now sue the state of Washington to try and get that exemption. And as far as the Donald Trump policy, yes, I agree with some of Donald Trump's policies, and that is, guess what? Lower taxes, hard and tough on crime. Let's hold people accountable and responsible to the laws of Washington State. Let's stop blaming victims and excusing criminals. Yes, I agree with lower taxes. Yes, I agree with tough on crime. Yes, I agree with tougher on the borders and border security. We're allowing terrorists into our country.
Mr. Reichert, that's time. Thank you.